have we ruled out all outside agitators?
No, in fact, I think there were videos of some arsonists creating new fires.
I'd like to know what kind of investigation is underway in terms of outside agitators. I mean, all of these people who've come into America and wanting to disrupt our lives. I would like to see an investigation to ensure that we know that there were no outside agitators starting these fires.
Yeah.
Okay, so to be very clear, there's a lot going on there. So it sounds like she's talking about arsonists, and we've been talking about the fact that there is now belief, there's fear that one of these fires might have been set by an arsonist, but she's not talking about just any random arsonist living in LA. She's talking about migrants. She doesn't use the word, but she's very clear. They come from outside to disrupt our lives. So she doesn't say migrants and she doesn't say replacement theory, but that's what she's talking about. And even her guest, so we sort of glossed over him because he's not the important part of this, but he cited the terror attacks on New Year's Eve as evidence of what she's talking about. But again, those were homegrown issues. Those were not migrants that committed those. But now you look at what you have on Fox. You have these 2 terror attacks. You have the fires in LA. None of those 3 events have anything to do with migrants, but they're finding a way to pin the blame for all of them on that, or at least turn the conversation to be around that. And so if you want to investigate arson, you should do that, particularly with the citizens arrest thing. That's a concern. But when you try to take every single negative thing that happens in America and make it either about migrants or about trans people, that's insane. And Maria Bartiromo, who, as we'll talk about later in the show, was nearly vice president, should know better. But she's not interested in making sure that her viewers know what's going on. She's interested in scoring points. That's why she says things like, and you've probably heard this going around. She pointed out that LA donated a few years back surplus firefighting equipment to Ukraine. See, as an example of how irresponsible they're being. But the issue with that is there's no one who's making the claim that the fires they're having more difficulty fighting them because they don't have the firefighting equipment for them. There's no concerns about that at all. So it's a thing you cite that makes it seem as if something bad is going on, even though it has nothing to do with the actual story or the disaster, which I will remind everyone, since she doesn't seem to care about what's actually going on, is still being fought. And so like these are people, Brett, who have entire production staffs. They make millions of dollars. They have all these resources. She could bring in officials from LA and California to be on the show, but instead it's about setting a narrative and about trying to score points, not caring about the actual damage that's being done.
Right, they're overfunded. They have tons of resources that they don't actually need. And also like, to what extent does she really plan that show out? Because if she does, the result is always, miraculously, can you believe it, feeding directly into a pre-existing narrative that's been there for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 90 years, since the founding of America, like some kind of racist blame others. That's what her job is. Her job is not to report the news. And as we reported also, like if it comes up in a court of law, they say they're not the news. Remember that Tucker Carlson said this is entertainment value, and no reasonable person should believe that what he said is real. And as I said on this show as well, like weirdness, craziness, that is part of the slide to fascism. It is, well, all the places that you typically go for some kind of truth turn into, by some manner or other, a place where that's not actually where the truth is. And like Greenland is an example. When Trump says like we're gonna conquer Greenland, and you watch all these folks like analyze it, and they're like, well, he doesn't actually mean it, but if he did mean it, it would also be okay. And you guys just can't take a joke. And the joke is that we're gonna say that we're anti-war, but the joke is that we're gonna invade Mexico and Canada and take them over. And meanwhile, the truth doesn't matter. It doesn't get in the way of, many would say, a good story. It doesn't get in the way of these horrible stories for them. They still believe that there was a trans boxer in the Olympics.
Yep.
They still say it months, and I guarantee years and years later. If you watched Jesse Waters yesterday, all he said, he basically blamed the fires on the fact that a lesbian woman is the fire chief. Like that, he just showed her picture, like, here's the person in charge. And said that they tried to get rid of white people from the fire department, even though it's like 85, 95%. And the thing that they were actually, the kernel of half truth that they based it on was one program not in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
that wasn't for that. It was just like, hey, 85, 95 is a huge percentage. And there's already protection. Yeah, anyways, that's basically my take.
I get it, and it's all very frustrating, and we have to continue to fight back against it. And meanwhile, look, I understand that they're making a lot of money. I will continue to think it is a very sad way to live your life. That nobody, when their kids, think someday I'm gonna lie to a lot of people. Oh, about really important things. I'm just gonna lie and lie and lie, and that's what their life is. And here at TDR on the network, we're never gonna make 1/10 as much money as they do, but at the very least, we'll be able to sleep at night knowing that we did our best. That's what we did.
And all those hosts on legacy media outlets look around them and they see the rest of the industry on fire. They see the embers. Like Tucker Carlson's a classic example. I made a video about this if you find the Brett Erlich playlist on Rebel HQ, but it's called The Moment That Tucker Carlson Became a Villain. It's when he got punked by Jon Stewart on Crossfire in the 90s, got fired shortly after, and was like, oh my God, I am irrelevant. I have nothing unless I have a job in the news. And then he did some horrible stuff, then saw the opportunity literally 4 years before January 6th on the same day. He got the opportunity to go on Fox, and he's like, I'm never gonna make that mistake again. And they're all doing that because they look at, there's no jobs for them unless they do the only thing that's available to them, which is an impression of Donald Trump to forward the narratives that will help them keep their, and they do it because they rely on you, their audience, being stupid and not noticing that's exactly what's going on.